Welcome to Simple Kicking with your host, James Harrison.
Blake Mazza is the starting kicker at Washington State. Last season, he was named a Lou Groza Finalist along with Simple Kicking's own Keith Duncan. Blake, what is your story? How did you get to Washington State?
Yeah. So straight out of high school, I actually went to the University of Arkansas under Brett Bielema. And as a high school senior, I was ranked 12th in the country and was actually the first preferred walk-on out of high school in our ranking system that didn't have a scholarship. And I had some other smaller schools like Abilene Christian University, the military schools, Lamar, stuff like that. But I had my eyes set on the big stage, and that was Power 5 football. I ended up in the SEC in there and was going to end up redshirting because one of my good friends was the senior kicker, Cole Headland. He had a stint with the Indianapolis Colts. And they told me, they were like, Blake, when you come, I want you to come in here, compete your butt off. But, I want you to learn from Cole, absorb everything. And that's what I did. I actually went in there and was battling with him, was a number 2 kicker as a freshman, and was getting a lot of attention, actually, and was making kicks. And the second game, we were playing TCU, and he was 0 for 2. And so at halftime, our coach came up to me and was like, Blake, you're playing. I was like, Coach, are you sure? In my head. I never said that out loud. I was like, all right, well, this is the time, Blake. This is what you've been waiting for. And the second half, we actually never got in the red zone, scored a touchdown, anything. So when it comes to football, that preserved my eligibility. The week after, or hours after, the coach called me. He was like, hey, for the next week, you're going to be competing with the kickoff guy for the field goal job. And I was like, yeah, for sure. He ended up winning the job, and he had been playing for 2 years, and they were going to stick with me being the red shirt. And I was like, that's fine. They ended up getting fired, and my whole little perfect alignment of playing and being under them next year was gone out the window. Called my parents and was like, hey, I think it's time to transfer, look at other options. Before you know it, I got in contact with WSU, Washington State University, and Pullman. And let me tell you, when I found out how cold it was, I had about 2 jackets. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I had 2 jackets in my closet, if that. You're talking culture shock. I get up there, I commit. They offered me a spot, and I committed before even taking a visit. And I told my parents, I'm like, I'm taking a shot on myself. Like, I'm putting all this out there. I know I can do this. Their kicker was leaving. He just graduated. And coaches told me, like, hey, you're going to compete, and if you win the job, you're on scholarship. And ended up winning the job. And since then, I've been here for 2 years, going into my redshirt junior year.
There's a coaching change at Arkansas, so you make a move out to Wazoo. The only thing that's consistent about college football is that change is inevitable. What many don't realize in the moment, because they're super excited that they're getting recruited, is that the coach that's recruiting them is likely not going to be there throughout their entire career at that school.
Yeah, 100%. And whatever that coach tells, this is talking to the high school guys out there, listen to this. Whatever the coach tells you, at the end of the day, it's a business. He's trying to put food on the table for his family, and he's going to try and get the best kicker there and find the next best kicker to compete with you, and just always elevate the situation. That goes with every position at this level. And so I knew going into it, I was like, my coach just got fired. There could be Mike Leach could leave my first year or months into it. Well, it happened 2 years later. So I got 2 seasons with Mike Leach, which were an interesting 2 years. Crazy stories about him, but yeah, that's kind of the coaching carousel.
It's a business.
Yeah, it's a business. It's a business, and you got to kind of understand that. And I didn't understand that. I think the biggest part of college football that I noticed, and I was like, this is a business, is when a former teammate of mine, y'all know him, Gardner Minshew, quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and what he did here, his brand, the money he brought in. It's just even from like winning games, television. Like, guys, like once you get to the college level, the money when you play on ESPN is ridiculous when you break it down just from a year game to game basis. It's crazy, but it's fun too. Like I wouldn't pick any other television or game anything than playing on ESPN, especially like my redshirt freshman year, playing at USC in the Coliseum, ESPN, 7:00. Like that's what you live for. That's what you train for. And that game, when you break it down, millions of dollars just from the TV side of it. It's crazy.
That's a lot of pressure for a 18 to 22-year-old guy, but your position, it's even magnified.
Completely. I mean, I think you've got to take that aspect with a grain of salt. For me personally, coming out of high school, I was like, I'm going to turn down these smaller D1 offers and I want to play the big stage. I want to play to where fans have to pay $500 for that seat to watch us play. And I got to that level here in the Pac-12. I played in at Oregon. I mean, I've done the big stage. And I think these games, I mean, these seats and all the stuff that when you break it down, there is a lot of pressure. Like when I break it down right now, I'm like, shoot, Blake, they paid to see y'all play. You better at least perform. But I think that once you get that little devil inside of you on this shoulder, that's where you're screwed. Like you got to simplify it. You got to go out there and say, when you practice out on the turf field at your high school, just by yourself, it's not any different than Saturdays. I mean, you're still kicking a round little brown football and you're kicking in between it upright. I mean, if you think it's different, then you're going to put a lot more pressure on yourself and it's unneeded. So you got to really simplify it.
In 2018, you were 10 of 15 on field goals for 67%. In 2019, you were 20 of 21 for a 95% field goal percentage.
Yeah.
Did you simplify it? Did something occur, or is that just a magic number that I'm now looking at on a spreadsheet?
I'm the same kicker I was my freshman year. But I was different up here. I was different up in my mindset and the way I approach kicking. My freshman year, I was approaching it as in like, I've got to prove myself. I've got to provide this opportunity and entertainment for this team and put points on the board at all costs, like have fun. And this past season, I simplified it. I was like, I'm just going to go kick. Like, this is a game, make or miss, life still goes on. And for some of these kids, like, I wish I could tell y'all that. And you don't understand it until you get older, but there's more to life than football. And there's more life than kicking. And once I got that in my head, shoot, playing a game was no big deal. I mean, I'm still going to go home to my apartment and I'm still going to talk to my fiance, see my family. I mean, that's fine for me. Like, if I miss that kick, I'm still going to be the same me. Like, I'm going to be pissed. And I think when you go out with that your pressure just goes away. I mean, it's like putting all your eggs in one basket. That basket sure gets heavy. But you think about spreading those eggs around, it gets a lot lighter. It's simpler. It's simpler to carry around. And that's just kind of how I carry around my kicking and my approach to the game.
So you have this mindset of abundance.
Yeah, exactly.
You're loved by your family. You have an exciting life ahead of you with your fiance. And you get to play a game that you love, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's just how I've been. I've struggled with that. Like, growing up, I struggled with like trying to make people happy, pleasing people, like pleasing my dad, pleasing my grandfather, people who were role models to me, who I looked up to. And once I grasped the concept that they're still going to like me, whether I make that game winner or if I miss that field goal, they're going to love me the same. I mean, life's going to do it to you. You're going to miss a field goal. I mean, it's how you rebound. It's how you get back to it. And the world's not going to end just because you miss a field goal. I promise you that.
Right. So that's pretty heavy stuff there, man. I mean, there's people outside of kicking that struggle with people pleasing. Like, this is life lessons that you're learning at a very young age. dude, all of us learn lessons differently. How did you figure out that the people pleasing wasn't working for you anymore?
I mean, it's something I'm going to struggle with my whole life. But, I mean, in the position we're in, especially specialists, punters, kickers, snappers, and even returners, like when you break it down, you're the spotlight in that play. Like all at this level, 85, 100,000 fans are staring at you to make that play. And you're in an away game, they hope you fail in that play. And so when you really just try and avoid that, like I want to make this kick just so I can see the smiles on my teammates and coaches' faces. Nah, get rid of that. Like you're the only one out there. Just make that kick, dude. Just simplify it. And I wish I could tell these kids in high schools and other college kickers, just dumb it down, simplify. It is a football. You're kicking it. I mean, just think about it just like you're out there training on Saturday just by yourself.
It's a brown ball. Those are yellow or white posts. That's the only two colors in college that they're allowed to be. And your job is to put that brown ball in between those little posts.
Yeah. It's I actually told one of my friends at my church, they were like, Blake, like what changed with you? Kind of like the similar question. And I was like, honestly, like in my freshman year, I was like, I'm kicking at a big stage. I'm kicking this football. I got to make it. And this last year, I was like, I don't know. I'm just kicking a little dumb football through an upright. Like, I mean, guys, there's so much crazier things you could be doing there's a lot more pressure. And that's just helped me. That's the bread and butter to my kicking and my mentality towards it.
That word is called detachment. The opposite is attached. You were attached to the big stage. You were attached to the spotlight. And it doesn't seem like it's gross negligence that you were like, oh, I'm the big guy on campus. I mean, I don't sense that from you. And plus, even if you did try to compete with that, you had Gardner Minshew that he was going to make the headlines regardless of what you were going to do. However, the detachment that it sounds like you have now transitioned into was really helpful.
Oh, completely. I mean, once you just get the hold of the concept of just doing your job. I mean, at the point where my first field goal, I had made it and it didn't even affect me. I felt like it was just like another kick. Like you see me after I was a 45-yarder last season, first kick, left hash and put it through. And I've never in my life just been like, well, it's another kick. I think that's just like the complete success, because each kick I was able to carry that into the whole season, which got me to 18 for 18 at one point and eventually 20 for 21. And personally, I think I could have kept going. So.
All right. So Washington State is on the road. This is probably the best Washington State team that I can remember, and I've been following college football for 20 years. The score is 38-38. You got 23 seconds left in this ball game. And walk me through, before this kick, what you were feeling as you took your steps.
Yeah, I knew on the sideline there was a chance that we were going to get down there and I could be put in that spot to hit the game winner. And I said this when we had our Pac-12 roundtable, but as a kicker, you got to kind of want that in a way. If you're afraid of it, you're going to go out there and miss. So I wanted it, but it was also pretty cool, calm, and collective, and it paid out.
In terms of the mindset that you had just talked about, were you as smooth and calm and cool in this kick as you were in the following season?
Yes and no. I think I've always been just really good. A strength of mind has just been my breathing and just really being cool under pressure. But so, yeah, it was a little bit different. But, I mean, when you see my face right there, like I'm breathing fine. I'm pretty relaxed, my face. Like those small things when you look at it, even when I look at NFL guys and watch their film, I can usually tell how they're feeling right before they go out just by looking at them.
So you bring up two good points. One, you were breathing, and you said, look at my face. It feels, you can tell I'm relaxed. How do you get here, though? Like, who were you a year before this, right? I mean, you see how there's a segment of Blake Mazza at Arkansas that you talked about earlier. There's Blake Mazza, who's about to line up for a game-winning kick against number 24 Stanford at the Farm.
I think it honestly just goes back to working out and putting the pressure on myself. Like, for so many years, I had just been trying to, like, that pleasing other people, like putting a lot of my eggs in that basket. And once I get up in that stage, you gotta just breathe. And I don't know how to describe it. You just got to be in this zone. I don't remember this. Like, that's how much in the zone I was. Like, I blacked out through this.
And what did that feel like? To see the ball, to feel the ball fly?
Yeah. When I knew it was going to, right in the air, I was like, that thing's going pretty high. I actually got under it a little bit. But when I saw it was about to go through, I was like, geez, this is big for me. I'm happy. I mean, this was a big game, but
huge game, dude.
It was a big game.
Huge. Yeah. Dude, at one point, I think this puts you guys in the top 10, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we were number 8 after this. I mean, there was talk about like college football playoff if we won the Pac-12.
That is insane. I think one of y'all had, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you guys have a nationally televised game after this?
Yeah, we had our first college game day ever earlier that season at Oregon, and then the 2 following games were on ESPN. And credit that just the whole team and Gardner, and it was just a good season. But yeah, it was a hype stadium. I seriously don't remember it though. Even when warming up, like kicking in the net, I saw video, like the TV footage, like of me warming up. Don't remember it. Don't remember the kick. Don't remember the celebration. I don't remember anything until after the game when I like saw my family. They were at the game, and that's the part I remember, which probably explains a lot of my personality.
You said earlier you can't really explain it, but for people who are listening, they can definitely feel your voice, right? They may not see you right now, but they can definitely feel your energy on the way that you comport yourself. You are calm. You're soft-spoken, dude, but you're also very much yourself and authentic.
Yeah, I think at this position, that's what you got to be. If you try to be a kicker, you're not. Even with your swing, stuff like that. I mean, you just got to be you. You've got to swing your swing and go out there with your personality, and I mean that's what's going to take you to the next level.
Swing your swing.
Yeah, exactly. Swing your swing.
Simplify your kicking.
Exactly.
I wonder why this podcast is called Simple Kicking then.
Well, this is a good little partnership we got going on.
hey, if I'm picking up what you're putting down,
exactly.
I think I like it.
Exactly. See, we're just trying to dumb kicking down a little bit.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, dude, this is remarkable what you're saying. This is a massive transformation of a human being to begin with. And it's evidenced by a nearly 30 percentage point increase year over year. If you were a stock and someone said pre-2019 season,
be volatile, I'll tell you that.
Exactly. As volatile as kicking is.
Yeah.
Someone who would buy your stock pre-2019 season is now rich.
Exactly. And when you break it down, like I look at my 10 for 15 One was like a 52, one was a 47. Like I said this earlier, I was the same kicker I was freshman year. My numbers were different, but like up here in my head, my concept of kicking and was completely different. And right now I've grasped that concept and I'm going to run with it to whenever I hang up my cleats, whether that's in 2 years, whether that's in 10, whatever it is. I think this mentality it works for me, and I encourage it to other guys because I know what pressure, I know what you're feeling when you go out there and try to make a big kick, whether it's in practice or a game. You're nervous, but when you simplify it, dumb it down, and just know you're kicking a brown little stupid ball between an upright, makes kicking a lot easier.
Austin McNamara, who is the punter at Texas Tech, was All-American as a freshman. There's a strikingly similar rhetoric here, which is simplify, simplify, simplify. In that podcast with Austin, he sets the bar for like a 39-yard punt. The dude can do that with his non-dominant foot. Come on. But he still has that mindset so that he's very relaxed. He swings within himself. And as a result, dude, he averaged 45 plus last season. Yeah, and in our business, that is setting the industry standard if you're above it.
Exactly. When I was at Arkansas, I actually did it was almost like this, just like test, but it was like this with a sports psychologist, and they were testing my heart rate, my brain, like monitoring my brain like functions and stuff. And they were hooking this stuff up to me, and they were like putting me through these tests, like watching videos and seeing how I'd react. And they were like, all right, Blake, like try and get in that zone. And after I did it, it was my first time. They're like, you were able to like flip a switch. And I was like, I think that's a talent of mine, but I've also think it's something as I've grown in my kicking and matured, I'm able to just kind of turn on. And that's that relaxed, like calm, drop your shoulders, face is perfectly relaxed, pressure's gone. And I think that's what separates kickers, especially once you get to the next level.
So your counterpart, who is still a current college football player in the Lou Groza Finalist, is Keith Duncan. He said trigger words for him were big, and we recently had him on the Big Ten roundtable.
Yep.
His trigger word is opportunity. You just talked about flipping a switch. Is there a trigger that gets that switch to be flipped?
I kind of got in the zone and told my snapper and holder before. I was like, hey, when we go out to kick, don't talk to me. And I did that the whole season, both seasons actually. It's something I've carried over. And that flip of a switch is once the offense crosses the 50-yard line, a switch is flipped, I'm breathing, I'm kicking smooth just in the net, and slowly work my way over to the sideline on the other side where our offense is and wait for fourth down.
So it's second down and 18. The team is on the 30-yard line.
Yeah. I mean, I'm prepared to kick. At that point, I'm like, I actually stop kicking. If I can tell we're about to kick and I'm kind of warm, I'll actually stop kicking, because when you kick into the net, your heart rate's going up. Like, just because, I mean, you're physically doing something. So sometimes if I feel warm, I'll stop kicking maybe second down and be like, if we go out, my heart rate's fine. My heart rate's lowered. When I jog out onto the field, I jog slow. Like you just got to keep your heart rate low. And when you sprint out there, especially if you're at a away stadium, your adrenaline's running, your heart rate will go skyrocket. And I promise you, you can't. It's just your body. It's human instinct. And so just simple things like that can help you aid that heart rate and kind of that relaxation factor. Just flipping the switch.
So third down, they get tackled in this scenario. They get a 5-yard gain. They end up on the 20-yard line. When you say you're on the sideline, if you've instructed people not to talk to you, where are you physically? Again, line of scrimmage is on the 25. Where are you on the sideline before? Where are you running out to? Please share what your pre-shot routine is.
This past year, my coaches kind of got a feel for my mental approach and just what I needed to do. And when it was fourth down, they didn't come looking for me because they didn't yell my name to figure out where I was. They trusted me and knew I was in tune with what was going on. And I was probably on the 50-yard line just watching, away from everybody, just watching the game. And when it was fourth down, my snapper and holder were 30 yards in front of me, and then they were going to go out there. They knew I was coming. And just jog out there and kick the football through the uprights.
So there's no flight path before you take off on this kick. You're not going out to the middle of the field. You just kind of walk, you kind of run or jog directly to your spot.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, if the offense even is still out there and they call fourth down and field goal, and I'll take my time. I mean, especially with the play clock, I've understood how much time I need to get set, like my tempo and stuff like that. So.
And when you're relaxed walking onto that field, is it the same kind of relaxed as walking into a ice cream parlor? Call it Marble Slab. You just stroll in there, or Brahms if you're back in Texas. Is it the kind of relaxed of walking in the park with your fiance? Is it the kind of relaxed that, the sun is setting on a Texas ranch? What kind of relaxed are you talking about?
I mean, I'm jogging out there like I'm just jogging in the park. I mean, it's I don't know how to describe it. I mean, I'm just jogging out there. It's like I'm on clouds, just because that's how I'm feeling. Like you just got to completely relax everything. I mean, once you get into the bigger situations, it's a little bit harder. Like, I'm not saying every single time I'm able to perfect that, because it's hard to do, but I'm able to finally get a concept of flipping that switch. But I think that relaxation varies depending on stuff. I mean, it's uncontrollable. It's human nature.
Sure. You talked earlier, and I think this is huge. It's just a massive indicator of this transformation that you've undergone in a short couple months, is that when you miss a kick, hey, it's okay. I'm on to the next one. I mean, there's not this overthinking. You're not over-diagnosing and meticulously looking within to find, how can I fix this? You have an ability to just turn the page.
Yeah.
And then when the switch comes back, you know how to flip it in order to get back into that game mode.
Yeah, exactly. It's a miss. It's a miss. I mean, it's the same as practice. Like, this past year, after I had that 20 for 21 year, and my freshman year had a game winner, had some big kicks, I had some people tell me, just like who were in the kicking community, coaches, just in that realm, who said, I think my biggest fear for you is you've had success early, and from now on, that's a standard you set for yourself. And for me, that's something I think I've actually grasped a hold of, because there's a 20 for 21 standard, and the only up I can go from here is pretty much perfect. But I think if you try to make each kick and try to be perfect, there's no shot you're going to make every kick. Not at all. And so I think that mentality even transfers over into that aspect.
And that's a very interesting point you bring up that I talked about with Austin McNamara. How much better can you actually get when you already set the tone at your freshman year? And he goes, dude, I'm not really worried and concerned about what happened last season. The accolades are great, but I'm just focusing on, getting better. I mean, there's a lot of improvement. I've got my drop to work on. I've got leg strength to work on.
Yep, completely. Could not agree more.
You enjoy the process.
Enjoy the process and just take each day by day, each kick by kick. That's all you can do.
So a couple months ago, you and I connected over DMs, and we talked about the Simple Kicking app, and you had given me a quote saying that it was really helpful for you because you don't always have your percentages from practice readily available.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was, like, I was able to see the kicks. I mean, actually here at WSU, my coach actually pulled up like a paper and drew uprights and was documenting. I was like, there's an app for that. And And so it's just a good way to kind of see where you were that day, like see a trend if there is one.
And have you found any trend in your kicking?
Maybe a right middle for me is something I'm trying to improve on a little bit, just because you're closing your hips a little bit, but you're also not just pulling across your body like a right hash. So I think that's one trend, which I've tried to work on. If I can see I'm messing up on the right hash, and like I said, if I'm barely sneaking it in, I know I'm not opening my hips up to the target. I'm not rolling my foot over properly. And those things I can tell, especially if it's repeatedly doing that. That's where you can see it.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. By simplifying, by developing patterns, by learning, I might blow your mind here, but dude, maybe your success and you as a kicker, obviously to the outside world, they're going to measure you on your stats. 20 of 21, you set the bar. We're talking about it right now. But is there another transformation that you see yourself potentially undergoing to go from where you are now to Robbie Gould's level?
I mean, I hope there is. But I think it's understanding that, like, just never being satisfied, balancing that really well. Never being satisfied, but also not putting too much pressure on yourself to overperform in a way. Just being gentle with that aspect, because I mean, I do want to kick in the NFL one day, and it's a dream of mine. And again, there's still some things I want to work on, just like what Austin was saying.
This is Blake Mazza. He is the Lou Groza Finalist from Washington State in Pullman, Washington. He's a Texas native, and he made his way to Pullman by way of Arkansas. You've had an incredible career so far, and what we're talking about is how much you've grown in a short period of time. You've touched on your mindset, you've touched on some stories, and where you hopefully will end up in the NFL, maybe not in the NFL. You talked about a gentleness and staying balanced, and how important it is to stay balanced. Your faith has played a role in all this. As I've seen on your Instagram, there's only two other dudes that I follow regularly that have the same kind of outspoken and mention to Jesus in their biography, and that's a dear friend of mine, Reed Ferguson, who's a long snapper for the Buffalo Bills, and that is your belief in Jesus Christ. And I'm interested to know, as a kicker, how has that played a role for you in this transformation that you've really undergone?
Yeah, I mean, my faith's everything to me, and it attributes to my mentality of there's more to life than kicking, and me being a believer in Jesus Christ. There's a scripture that says, "A man with a changed heart seeks praise from God, not from people." And I think once I read that, I was like, boom, this is a game changer. I mean, if I'm seeking praise from people, I'm never going to be satisfied, and they won't ever. And so, a man with a changed heart seeks praise from God, not from people, spoke miles to me, because I was able to go out and perform and be happy with myself no matter what the outcome was.
I've been so blessed. At LSU, I had two teammates, Stephen Rivers and like I talked about, aforementioned Reed Ferguson, and we really bonded on our faith in Christ. And that, there was days, man, like at LSU, why did we lose to Alabama in 2012 in crazy game that we should have won? And we always got down to it, God doesn't really care if you win or lose. And I look back at my own career, gosh, God, I went to mass every Sunday. I'm doing the things I think you want me to do. Like, I think I'm doing your will.
Yeah.
Why am I not making these kicks? Or even at mass on Sunday, I would be like, look, I'm going to take this Eucharist as a champion.
Yeah.
But a man with a changed heart seeks praise not from men, but from God.
Exactly.
Sounds like a St. Paul. Is that St. Paul?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's just able to just capture you and it was just so helpful. I mean, I still carry it with myself today.
So Justin Tucker is arguably the greatest kicker to ever put cleats on. And he talks about St. Peter being his favorite saint because after Jesus had died, now Peter is, leading the apostles. He is the rock in which Christ will build his church.
Yeah.
What do you look to from God in those moments of pressure?
It's a really good question. I think just the opportunity to bring glory and light to him in the midst of the pressure that I'm in. I mean, the stage that I have, the platform I have, the spotlight that I've been blessed to be put in front of me. I think the biggest thing I ask is, Lord, no matter what the outcome is, like let my platform and faith in you be shared to everyone.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a cool part of having you on this podcast and bringing up this specific piece. We had talked about it with Reed Ferguson, but you are using your platform to build the kingdom, and it's rare nowadays. And it's not the kids these days mentality. It's just in the world that we live in, there's a lot of distractions, and it seems like you really do put your faith first, your family second, and football in its right place at third or wherever it ends up being.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and that's a huge little part to my kicking and just the way I approach life and in the football field and outside.
That's really cool.
So appreciate that.
I appreciate you doing that.
Appreciate the work you're doing for the kicking community. Especially, I wish I had that after earlier in my career. Yeah, this is awesome. Appreciate you setting this up too.
Yeah, dude. Well, thank you so much for joining. This is Blake Mazza. Big fan of yours. Looking forward to your 2020 season, whether that happens in 2021 or what. I mean, you're a special young man, and whatever I can do to help you, brother, I'm a phone call away. If you enjoyed the content, man, drop a like, comment, or even subscribe. It would be really cool to hear from you. Also, you can find Simple Kicking on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and even TikTok.